of a crime, like a streak of light, he arrives just in time. Spider-Man, Spider-Man, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, wealth and fame, he's ignored, action is his reward to him. Life is a great big bang.
You knew it was coming. Let's review Spider-Man 3. Let's start with Spidey. What the fuck happened? Everybody loves him all of a sudden? That makes no sense.
Well, that's just how the movie starts out. His life is starting to come together. Everything is sunshine and rainbows. The city is starting to respect him, his grades are improving.
He has a girlfriend who's a talented singer.
Dunst did a good job singing.
I'll concede that his life is on the up with MJ and his grades, but JJ has been running a successful smear campaign against Spidey.
To be fair, a lot of the appreciation that he receives in this film is due to a scene where he saves the police chief's daughter, Gwen Stacy.
That was not Gwen Stacy.
I did air quotes.
But yeah. Anyway, he saves Gwen Stacy from that crane that was chasing her.
That crane broke the laws of physics, and so did that building.
Yeah, I'm sorry. There is no way an I-beam could smash through the corner. The corner pillar provides a massive amount of support, and that beam smashed through it like it was made of styrofoam.
I would love to have a chat with the engineers that made that building.
Well, all we were given for supplies were paper mache and balsa wood.
And I found the scene of Spider-Man dodging debris to be a little too much.
The physics there seemed pretty solid. The only part where I came close to going, oh no way, was,
where the two pieces of concrete collided, but he slipped through just in time.
That was pretty idiotic. It would have made more sense for him to maneuver around them.
Yeah, it would make more sense, but he's trying to be razzle-dazzle.
You know, another issue that I have with that scene is that none of the models in the building have the foresight to get away from the window the moment an I-beam starts coming towards them. It doesn't exactly take spider sense to figure out what to do there.
Well, let's face it, models don't tend to get jobs if they run away the very moment a large, stiff rod comes towards them.
Well, moving on. Parker's life has begun to improve because, well, he's an idiot.
And there was this scene where he shows up to receive the key to the city, and yet he isn't wearing his mask, and therefore could be seen by anyone who simply turned around. My reaction to this was just, no!
One of the reasons that I liked the second film is because McGuire succeeded in adding range to his performance while at the same time retaining subtlety. There is nothing subtle about his performance in this film.
To be fair, I'm not sure how he was supposed to be subtle with that dancing. Though, it's been mocked way too much. I'll just put up a montage to convey our feelings, and we'll just leave it at that.
Heaven ain't close in a place like this. Bring it back down tonight. Never thought I'd let a rumor ruin my moonlight.
Emo revolution.
You might have made those scenes bearable. Still, before we move on, it needs to be said that bit where he dances into the suit shop was just painful.
Look at you, you beautiful bastard. You suited up!
But seriously, the boy never stops smiling. There's a scene where Harry essentially goes, "So my dad's dead?" And he's all like, "Yeah! What the hell?"
That is the dickiest thing he could ever do.
Okay, well, let's look at the bitch herself.
Kind of feel that MJ was one of the better elements of this film. She's, in a way, traded places with Parker. She's the one in a rather hard financial position in this film, but because she has that singing job, and while she can sing quite well,
Apparently she can't project.
Why the hell doesn't she have a mic? And she gets fired after her first performance? How does that happen? Doesn't she have a contract?
Who the hell is her agent?
The actor who has the part doesn't know he might be fired. It's a lead in a series, Mac and Cheese.
I'm the lead in Mac and Cheese.
Uh-oh.
In a way, it comes back to the whole God machine aspect, which was present in the first film.
you know, we do need to take note of Harry. He was both integral to the plot, and James Franco did a rather good job acting in this film.
He was a major character in this film.
He was still over the top, though. When he first shows up, he's watching Mary Jane's singing performance, and is apparently having an evil-gasm while doing it.
It often feels like you should have the Imperial March playing in the background.
You know, I don't know if he is actively going after MJ in the beginning, but he certainly makes his presence known. You know, he sends her that massive bouquet of flowers.
Aw, are you compensating for the size of your glider? Still, it does seem ironic that it wasn't until the worst movie in the series that Franco ended up doing a good job of acting.
Well, part of it has to do with the fact that he's surrounded by this film. It makes him seem subtle by comparison.
You know, I'd say this movie was actually good. Not great, but...
First half. It did have some aspects that worked well. Harry's suit was criticized a bit for its appearance, but I actually like it better than the first one. It did need a bit more to distinguish itself as being a goblin suit. I mean, to be fair, we don't actually know which goblin he is in this film, but if you think about it, all he really needed to look like the Hobgoblin would be a cloak. The mask on its own doesn't really work, but I think it would have been fine if he had a hood.
He kind of ripped his costume off the shredder, but it does look badass.
The glider is pretty retarded, though. When he first shows up, my first thought was, wait, did Spider-Man just get stealth attacked by a Tony Hawk wannabe?
Yeah, with fans duct taped to his skateboard.
The biggest flaw in the fight scene is that the fact that he didn't trigger Parker's spider sense, like, ever.
They didn't use the Spidey sense once in this film.
They do reference it once, though.
When?
Topher Grace has that line, "Oh, my spider sense is tingling, if you know what I mean." Ew! But the fight scene itself between Harry and Peter was really well done.
It was well choreographed.
Why the hell didn't Osborn fight this way? He would have killed Spider-Man.
But then Harry gets conked on the head and gets retrograde amnesia.
This is a pretty subtle usage of that cliche when you consider how often it was used in the comics. Now, some of the stuff they show in the Goblin Hangout looked kinda ridiculous.
Like that one mask that looked like it was made from crystal or something.
Yeah, it was just kinda sparkly. However, we do need to discuss two subjects that we've kinda been skirting around.
Sandman. Kinda think they improved his character.
Yeah, but I'm a little annoyed that Sam Raimi feels that every villain has to tie in with Parker's personal life. I mean, every single one.
Wow, you're right.
It was more subtle with the previous entries because it was either taken directly from the comics or just seemed natural. But in this case, there was no need for Sandman to be Uncle Ben's killer, and it just felt like annoying retcon.
Also, Sandman has some sympathetic characteristics, but they took them a little too far in this film.
I also want to say this. Sandman is not a Spider-Man villain. He was originally a Fantastic Four villain. More specifically, a Thing villain. He moved over to Spider-Man for one crossover and became a mainstay.
What? Would you rather see him in a Fantastic Four movie?
Ugh!
My point exactly.
I'm just saying that he really has no place in Spider-Man's origins.
Oh, I understand. His backstory is a bit hit or miss in this film. He apparently goes back to his old house because we all know that the cops would never check there. And it's there that he has a wife and daughter, and he's like, oh, everything is alright. Daddy was just out jogging in his jumpsuit.
But I guess he does get points for changing into that shirt.
His escape is just the most baffling thing ever. Apparently he thought the best way to get away from the cops was through an open field on foot.
He actually bitch slaps one of their dogs. That was just ridiculous.
Oh. Pitch slap. That's where that comes from.
He also climbs over a fence with razor wire on top and gets away unscathed, including his clothes.
And of course he falls into the big science blender just as the scientists set it to frappe.
That explanation for his power still works better than the one from the comics.
Well, no duh. The comic books essentially threw up their arms and said, radiation! And left it at that.
Yeah, I mean, it does work better, but I can't help but wonder what would happen if they had been testing this on strawberries. Would he be Milkshake Man?
The most delicious villain ever to cross Spider-Man's path.
And what is with his indestructible locket? Everything else got turned to sand, but even the picture is still intact in that thing.
There's so much here that is just impossible to explain.
He was genetically fused with a freaking litter box.
His worst enemy, Catman.
But on to the other.
The other one.
No!
We're talking about him.
That's not Venom. That is not Venom. That is...
Shut up. Venom first shows up in the form of a meteor that stealthily sneaks up on Peter and MJ while they are hanging out in the park.
There is no way they could have not noticed that, and a rock that size should have destroyed the damn park.
Yeah, ignoring the obvious issue caused by the fact that Venom can be killed by heat, the symbiote leaks out of the meteor and hitches a ride on Parker's bike.
And the goop waits forever to bond with him.
They even say that it needs a host to survive. Why the hell did they make the thing wait so long?
And there was nothing all that interesting about the redesign for the suit. It's just gray. Not even black, really. And what about the white spider? That was the most awesome thing about the black suit.
Yeah, that is what made the black suit cool.
This isn't the black suit. It's Peter Parker in blackface, and it's just not the same thing.
And after the bonding...
That was just creepy.
The suit makes you mad. It makes you hostile. It doesn't make you dance, and it does not make you emo.
Yes, if you will note here at 1 hour, 7 minutes, 55 seconds, this film perished. It will be mourned by the comic community for years to come. May God have mercy on our souls.
Let us have a moment of silence.
Before we get to that, there is a scene that takes place involving Stacy and Parker where they kiss while he is dressed as Spider-Man. This obviously frustrates MJ and leads to what I consider to be the most painful scene in the film.
Is this the Bruce Campbell scene that we're talking about?
Campbell was great.
Oh yeah, the French waiter with the epic douche stash.
Even he couldn't save that scene between Parker and MJ. And to me, the part where Stacy shows up while they're eating was the most painful thing in this film. If you remember, I actually said, hurry up and make him emo. It's gotta be better than this. I couldn't force my face into my hand hard enough. I was trying to kill myself via facepalm. But, you know, let me just say that Topher Grace's acting wasn't as bad as I expected. The real issue here is that he is not suited for the role.
He was horribly miscast.
Yeah, he did an okay job when you consider the ridiculous lines he had.
I come before you today, humbled and humiliated, to ask you for one thing. I want you to kill Peter Parker.
You know, I'm not intimately aware of the tenets of Christianity, although I have outsmarted Catholics before in regards to the subject. But, Jimmy, maybe you can help me with this. I always thought that Catholics viewed God as their personal savior, not their personal savior and hitman.
Right.
They also exaggerated the process by which Brock comes to hate Spider-Man.
You mean where he has someone, probably some first-year art student, photoshopping an image of Spider-Man robbing a bank?
Yeah, that was a little difficult to believe, because it's such a harebrained idea. I did, however, like the scene where Parker confronts him. He's just like, bitch, please!
Still, there's no way that story would have made it past Robbie.
G. Jonah was still good in this film. They had him on blood pressure medication, and there was a fun scene that involved Miss Brandt toying around with the fact that he is required to remain calm.
Back to Venom, though, and I use the word loosely. He has some real issues with his design.
His mouth really needs to be a bit higher up on his face. Its location in the film made his jaw look kinda tiny and snake-like.
He sorta has the spider on his chest, but since it's black and not white, it's really difficult to see.
What might be one of the biggest issues for me, though, is the fact that he didn't talk in plural. He says I instead of we. I loved that aspect of the character.
He's also too small. In the comics, Venom succeeded in holding off the Hulk. Plus, it would have been nice to see the prehensile tongue. Those Lee press-on nails also looked kinda idiotic.
I understand why Venom had sharp yellow teeth, but why did Brock have sharp yellow teeth? That looked weird.
My first reaction was, quick! Shine a light on him! He'll sparkle!
And he shouldn't have been able to remove the suit. In the comics, the suit is bonded and just changes its form in order to avoid looking suspicious.
And as long as we're discussing evil, we should take a look back at James Franco. He was orgasmically evil. There was one scene where he tries to do an evil stare, and I really couldn't help but think of a scene from Friends where Joey is teaching students on how to act evil for soap opera.
Or let's say I want to convey that I've just done something evil. Well, that would be your basic, I've got a fish hook in my eyebrow and I like it.
You know, the final fight scene was a bit of a mess.
Yeah, even when it was starting out, I couldn't get past the idiocy of the reporters and the message that was written out in webbing.
Where it was in Spider-Man font?
What the hell is with that? Did Eddie Brock take calligraphy?
I actually really like the final fight.
I have some major issues with it. Some of it has to do with that skateboard thing again. Apparently it doubles as a flamethrower. Not only that, but it's hot enough that it melted part of Sandman, which brought my attention to a rather glaring issue. Where the hell is the fuel? What the hell does this thing run on?
Palladium?
But at the end of the fight, there is a scene that was supposed to be emotional. When I saw this in theaters, I was a little surprised, because it actually was, being done really well. And then all of a sudden, I laughed out loud. And I wasn't the only one. The reason for that is simple. In this scene, Parker is crying, and his face, he has this trembling chin that just cracked me up. It's like it's going through spasms. Some weird little Peter Parkinson chin.
I really enjoyed the first half of this movie. Had I simply been reviewing the first half, I may have been able to give it a more favorable rating. But the movie fell apart about midway through, and I feel that there are individuals involved with this production that should be ashamed in their role in this. Because of that, I'm going to give it our You Should Be Ashamed rating, which is essentially 4 out of 10.
I can't give this even a You Should Be Ashamed. I liked the first half. They did a good job with James Franco this time, and Sandman's origins were okay despite the contrived plot connection to Uncle Ben. However, I hated the second half, and because of it, I cannot give this anything but a turd blossom. It is essentially a fart joke. It may be slightly humorous, it may be somewhat enjoyable at points, but at its core, it's just shit. That's 3 out of 10.
This movie gave me hope with its first hour. Everything was going well. Then it took a left turn to shitland. It may have shown promise, but it was a promise that it broke. It made Peter emo, it made Venom's face weird, it made Topher Grace. You should be ashamed, because you hurt my feelings.
It's, you should be ashamed for me as well, because I feel there are individuals who should feel shamed for their role in this film. And that's pretty much my criteria for that rating. It's not a horrific film, it's just not good.
Well, with 3 You Should Be Ashamed ratings and 1 turd blossom, the MediaWhorz consensus is You should be ashamed. So, hate may be like a poison that can take you over, but damn it, this movie doesn't propagate it. Goodbye, have a wonderful time.
If you want